Well. AEW Double or Nothing 2025 was last night, and holy shit, I have not had as much fun watching a wrestling show in so long than I have with Double or Nothing. At first, I wasn't really going to give this show a chance, obviously, with my break from wrestling and all that jazz, but I was intrigued on who would win the Owen Hart Cup matches, and I really wanted to see how the Anarchy in the Arena match was going to turn out. And I gotta say, these matches, like every single match on this show for the most part, was absolutely amazing from start to finish. I very much enjoyed this show. I want to say the only thing I really didn't like was Mercedes Moné winning the Owen Hart Cup. I felt like Mercedes should have faced Athena at All In, and we should have gave Jamie that victory to have Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm once again. But obviously, Creative Control Banks always has to prevail, so she won the Women's Owen Hart Cup. Besides that, the ambulance match, or I guess what they call the stretcher match between Ricochet and Mark Briscoe, was absolutely amazing as well. Great performance by both men. Ricochet finally gets an AEW pay-per-view win, which I feel like he deserves with his heel work and everything like that. I feel like Ricochet is a star in the making, easily the best work of his career so far. And Mark Briscoe, the way he was bleeding profusely was insane. And later on in the night, he actually interfered in the Anarchy in the Arena match to help Team Babyface beat the Death Riders and the Young Bucks. Speaking of, the Anarchy in the Arena match was pure flames from start to finish. I thought it was a very fun time, especially Bodies by Drowning Pool playing throughout almost the entire match. That was shocking to see, but the crowd was going nuts. They were having fun. Every single one of these talents had incredible performances throughout. Also, we had outside interference from Hook and Gabe Kidd as well, which was very fun to see. I really wish that Gabe Kidd was an official participant in this match besides Wheeler Yuta, but I guess because they want to try to make Gabe Kidd seem like a wild card for the Death Riders stable, I guess it kind of made sense. Maybe Forbidden Door will have Gabe Kidd in more of a wrestling role within this group if Gabe Kidd is going to remain a member of this group. The Hurt Syndicate versus the Sons of Texas served their purpose as well. Obviously, the Hurt Syndicate was going to retain, but it was still a very fun match despite my personal gripe with Sammy Guevara. He did very good in this match as well. I still felt like a better, more deserving tag team should have faced the Hurt Syndicate, but it was obvious they wanted to have them retain, and this was more of a story development with MJF now being an official member of the Hurt Syndicate. The six-man tag team match being the co-main event was a very interesting decision as well, with Paragon versus the Don Callis family. Don Callis family managed to win, which I thought was absolutely sick, and I guess that definitely leaves Kyle Fletcher as the next opponent for Adam Cole and the TNT Championship. The FTR match I didn't pay too much attention to, but they obviously won against Nigel McGuinness and Daniel Garcia. Daniel Garcia ended up passing out from a sharpshooter by Dax Harwood. Very good heel win for FTR, and I don't know what happens from here, but this should be very interesting to see what they managed to do. Toni Storm retained the the Women's World Championship against Mina Shirakawa in a pretty decently fun match. Obviously, all the gooners on Twitter are going to be talking about the moment that happened afterward with Mina and Toni ending up kissing after the match. But, you know, it was a decent match to say the least. I thought Mariah May was going to make her return, but I guess not. I guess she's going to sit out the rest of her contract. And it's now official for All In, where Toni Storm is going to face Mercedes Moné for the Women's World Championship. I just hope and pray that Toni Storm beats Mercedes Moné at All In, or at the very least, Mercedes drops the TBS championship before All In, so that way, if she is inevitably going to win the Women's World Championship, she doesn't have both women's AEW championships held hostage with this creative control bullshit. I know Wolf told me, hey, a lot of people in AEW actually have creative control, like possibly Jon Moxley or Chris Jericho and stuff like that, the Young Bucks especially. But if you ask me, no talent in AEW has their creative control card that obvious than Mercedes Moné. Don't get me wrong, this match is going to cook, and I know there's going to be a lot of people looking forward to Toni and Mercedes going one-on-one. But if you ask me, this is just, meaningless. There's so many women on this roster that deserve all-in title opportunity. Mercedes shouldn't have even been in this tournament, but they want to give her the big match at All In. Sure, why not? Whatever. We also had Kazuchika Okada defending the Continental Championship against Speedball Mike Bailey. This match obviously served its purpose with Okada getting a filler title defense before we inevitably get Okada versus Kenny Omega at All In, possibly to unify the International and Continental Championships. This had a bit of a screwy finish, though, as Speedball Mike Bailey hit his finisher, covered Okada. The referee hit the 1-2-3, but right at the split second, he saw that Okada was grabbing the bottom rope, so he ended up reversing the decision, and the match ended up continuing, which obviously meant Okada managed to retain the Continental Championship. Apparently, I heard commentary say that Okada has had the longest title reign out of anybody in AEW history, which doesn't say much when you're barely defending the championship, and when you are, you're not facing any credible challengers. Hopefully July 12th can hurry up so that way the Continental Championship can be dead in the water. But I know I sound like I'm complaining. This match was actually very sick, and it's nice to see Speedball Mike Bailey in a prominent position in AEW. Then we go on to the main event, Will Ospreay versus Hangman Adam Page in the Men's Owen Hart Foundation Tournament Final. And holy shit, this was amazing. I said in my predictions video that this was the best possible final that they could have come up with, and I was right. If I know Will Ospreay is very overrated by, a senile old man who wants to call himself a journalist, but if any Will Ospreay match deserves 5 stars, it is definitely this one last night at Double or Nothing. Both men cooked 100%. It was a back and forth absolute slugfest. I came into this match expecting Will Ospreay to get the victory, but much to my surprise, they gave the victory to Hangman Adam Page, which I thought was a very, very decent decision as well. Hangman Adam Page, obviously in this big redemption arc, wanting to turn babyface, wanting to prove to the fans that he is not that evil, sadistic son of a bitch he was for the past 2 years, and wanting to win back the AEW World Championship. So because of this, it is official. At All In Texas, it will be Jon Moxley defending the AEW World Championship against Hangman Adam Page, and I cannot wait for this matchup. As much as I expected it to be Ospreay versus Mox, obviously Ospreay is going to have his time as AEW World Champion, but Hangman getting this victory, I absolutely love this idea. I hope Hangman dethrones Mox. I think Hangman was a true MVP of AEW, basically from the beginning. If anyone deserves to beat Jon Moxley, it is Hangman Adam Page. And I am absolutely excited for this. I very much enjoyed AEW Double or Nothing. Definitely the best PLE, pay-per-view, whatever you want to call it, of the year. This was an absolute brutal pay-per-view. Amazing in-ring wrestling throughout. Great storylines and everything like that. And even matches that I didn't even care about or even wanted to see. Case in point, the stretcher match between Mark Briscoe and Ricochet really, really opened my eyes and especially to Ricochet. That man is doing amazing in AEW. And even though I walked into this show expecting the Death Riders and the Young Bucks to win Anarchy in the Arena, the Anarchy in the Arena match start to finish was absolutely amazing, especially the finish with Swerve Strickland using the thumbtacks on his new shoes to hit the Swerve Stomp on one of the Young Bucks in order to get the victory was absolutely amazing. Utilizing the ambulance from the stretcher match earlier as well was a very nice touch to keep the Death Riders at bay, to allow Kenny Omega and Swerve Strickland to defeat the Young Bucks. I thought that was absolutely sick. This show was cooked throughout, and especially that decision to have Hangman Adam Page win the Men's Own Heart Tournament, I thought was absolutely sick. My stance on AEW really has changed in the year 2025, and no, it is not just because of the downfall that WWE is having this year. AEW has really picked up their act. They've really listened to a lot of the criticisms of the fans, I feel, and I can't wait for All In Texas. This was an incredible pay-per-view start to finish. My final rating is 9.5 out of 10. The reason why it is not a full 10 out of 10 is obviously because of Mercedes Moné winning the Women's Own Heart Tournament in a decision that I felt like they didn't really need to go down, because Mercedes Moné has like 5 other meaningless belts. She doesn't need the AEW Women's title, so either I hope she loses the TBS Championship before All In, or I hope Toni Storm retains against Mercedes Moné at All In. But besides that, this pay-per-view was absolutely amazing. I loved this show. And yeah, the break is over, ladies and gentlemen. All because of this incredible show, Double or Nothing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's my quick review of AEW Double or Nothing 2025. Leave your thoughts on the show down in the comments below. I'd very much love to see what your guys' opinion on this show was. And with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, if you are new here, be sure to leave a like, be sure to subscribe, be sure to turn post notifications on, so that way you never miss an upload. And until next time, this has been your boy Will from Will's Wrestling Corner. I will see you in the next video. Be good, people, and peace.